10 years, a decade of silence, of footsteps fading into the noise, of names whispered and forgotten. Someone has been searching for you for 10 years. Think about that. 10 winters, 10 summers, 10 birthdays that came and went while someone, somewhere, kept your name alive in the dark. They looked in places you've never been, chased shadows that looked like you, followed echoes that sounded like your voice. 10 years, that's a long time to keep looking for someone, isn't it? Most people can't even hold on to a dream for a week. They lose interest, get distracted, move on. But someone out there didn't. Someone has been searching for you endlessly for a decade, refusing to forget, refusing to stop, refusing to let the world convince them you were gone. 10 years of chasing ghosts, 10 years of whispers, 10 years of staring into the unknown and hoping it might stare back. What kind of person does that? What kind of hunger burns that long without burning out? They've built their life around the hunt. Maybe they wake up every morning thinking, asterisk, maybe today, asterisk. Maybe they don't even recognize who they are without the chase. 10 years, 3,650 days of retracing steps, questioning strangers, following half-truths, hoping one of them might lead to you. They've seen faces that almost looked like yours, heard voices that almost sounded familiar. Every time, almost. Every time, not quite. But they never stopped, because the idea of finding you meant more than peace, more than closure. It meant purpose. You see, people don't chase others for that long just because of love or guilt or nostalgia. No. Something deeper keeps them going, something that eats at them. Maybe it's regret. Maybe it's the need to fix something broken. Maybe it's the haunting thought that they could have done more, said something different, made another choice. Whatever it is, it's kept them alive all these years, alive in a way most people aren't. Because obsession, when it's fed for that long, becomes oxygen. It becomes the rhythm of their heartbeat, the reason they wake, the meaning behind every step they take. They've probably forgotten what normal life feels like. Birthdays, dinners, small talk. It all fades into the background when your mind is trapped in a loop that never ends. While the world moved forward, they stayed stuck in a single moment. The moment you disappeared, the moment everything froze, the moment time started counting differently. For you, the years may have passed like chapters. For them, it's been one long, unbroken page, a sentence that never ends. They've changed, of course. Everyone does, but not in the way you think. Time doesn't just age people, it distorts them. It reshapes the face, the voice, the soul. Maybe they started this search with hope. Maybe they smiled when they talked about you. Maybe they believed the world would help them. But years of silence, years of empty roads and dead ends, they wear a person down. Hope turns to fixation. Smiles fade into grim determination. And by the time 10 years pass, they're not the same person who began the search. They've become part of it. The hunter and the hunt, blurred together, indistinguishable. You might not even recognize them anymore. The one who's been searching for you isn't the one you left behind. They've changed in ways you never imagined. They've lived inside that search so long that finding you isn't even about you anymore. It's about them. It's about proving that all those years meant something, that the pain had a point, that the sleepless nights weren't for nothing. Because if they don't find you, what does that say about the life they've been living all this time? What does that make the last 10 years worth? They've followed clues that weren't clues. Believed stories that weren't true. Trusted strangers who lied to their face. They've chased ghosts, reflections, silhouettes that vanished the second they reached out. But they kept moving, always moving, because stopping would mean facing the silence, the emptiness, the possibility that maybe you don't want to be found. And that thought, that's the one thing they could never face. 10 years of searching does something to the mind. It blurs the line between reality and memory. Maybe they don't even remember who you really are anymore. Maybe the person they're searching for isn't you, it's the version of you they remember, the version frozen in time, untouched by age or change. They're not looking for times you times now. They're looking for the idea of you, the person they built inside their head, the one who never left, never changed, never grew away. And that version is perfect, because it's safe, because it can't reject them, because it belongs entirely to them. But here's the strange thing. The longer they searched, the closer they got to something real, even if they didn't find you. Searching for someone that long forces you to learn things about yourself, forces you to confront truths you'd rather not see. The search becomes a mirror, reflecting everything you are, everything you've lost, everything you've been running from. 10 years of searching for someone else. And in the process, they might have found themselves piece by piece through every failure, every discovery, every haunting reminder of why they started in the first place. Maybe you were gone because you had to be. Maybe you left to survive, to rebuild, to disappear. Maybe you didn't want to be found, but they didn't care. They couldn't, because something in them refused to believe that disappearance meant the end. People like that, they don't accept endings, they rewrite them. They chase them until they make sense. And even if they never find you, even if the search leads them nowhere, they'll keep walking, because the act of searching is all that's left of who they are. 10 years of searching, and you never knew. 10 years of obsession, and you never felt the echo. But somewhere out there, someone is still looking through time, through loss, through silence, still believing that the world can't be finished until they see your face again. 10 years. 10 long, heavy, relentless years of holding on to the one thing that never left them, your name. Time is a funny thing, isn't it? It doesn't erase people. It just buries them under layers of noise, dust, and distraction. Faces fade, voices blur, memories twist themselves into strange shapes, but they never really disappear. Time hides people, hides the pain, hides the truth, but it never erases them. Somewhere beneath all that forgetting, they're still there, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be seen again. It's almost cruel, the way time works. It gives you just enough to move on, but not enough to forget. You think you've let someone go. You think you've moved forward, grown, healed. You look in the mirror and convince yourself the past doesn't matter anymore. But time laughs quietly behind you, because it knows that every second that passes doesn't delete what was. It simply hides it better. You can't erase a person who changed you. You can't erase the moments that burned their shape into your story. They become ghosts, not the kind that haunt houses, but the kind that haunt quiet moments. It happens when you hear a song you haven't listened to in years, and suddenly you remember their laugh. It happens when you catch a scent that pulls you backward, when a stranger's voice sounds too familiar, when the weather feels the same as it did that one day you swore you'd never forget. That's how time plays with you. It lets you think you've escaped, then slips a reminder through the cracks just to see your reaction. You see, forgetting isn't real. It's a trick, a disguise, a temporary silence. Time buries people, but the ground is thin, and when something shakes it, even slightly, everything buried starts to rise again. The faces, the words, the mistakes, the moments they come crawling back, not to punish you, but to remind you that the story isn't as finished as you thought. You don't erase people by waiting long enough. You just make the remembering more surprising when it finally happens. Some people hide deeper than others. They learn how to blend into the noise, how to vanish in plain sight. They leave behind no messages, no signs, just absence. And you think, maybe that's it. Maybe they're gone forever. But time doesn't let people vanish that easily. It loops back around over and over, and somehow their shadow finds its way into your path again. Sometimes through a dream. Sometimes through a face that looks too similar. Sometimes through the sudden weight in your chest when you can't explain why you feel what you feel. That's how, time is still keeping them somewhere. Quietly, secretly. People say time heals. Maybe it does. But healing isn't forgetting. Healing is remembering without bleeding. It's learning how to look at the same memory without falling apart. It's knowing the person still exists somewhere, even if they're not in your world anymore. Because if time truly erased people, why do we still talk about them, think about them, dream about them? Why do we still feel their presence in moments when no one's around? You see, when someone touches your life deeply, they carve something into you. A mark that time can't sand away. You might build new layers over it, new people, new memories, new versions of yourself, but underneath, that mark stays. And sometimes, when the right light hits, you can still see it shining through. That's not weakness. That's proof you were alive, that you felt, that someone mattered enough to leave a trace. It's strange, isn't it, how time tries to clean the slate but always leaves fingerprints. You can change your city, your name, your life, but there are moments that still belong to someone else. Little fragments of memory that time couldn't quite hide. The way your hand twitches when you hear a familiar sound. The way you hesitate before saying a name. The way you smile at something no one else understands. That's the proof. That's the evidence that time hides, but never deletes. And maybe that's what makes time so powerful. It doesn't take people from us, it transforms them. Turns them into lessons, into echoes, into symbols. The person you once knew becomes a part of your voice, your choices, your fears, your strength. Even if they're gone, they're still shaping the way you live, the way you think, the way you survive. They become part of your foundation, buried deep, impossible to remove without breaking everything else. You might think 10 years is long enough to forget, long enough for the edges to fade. But the truth is, the more time passes, the clearer some things become, not because they're louder, but because the silence around them has grown. The noise of life dies down, and what's left, what always remains, is the echo of what mattered most. It's like a whisper that gets sharper in the quiet. You don't hear it every day, but when you do, it hits harder than ever. Sometimes, the people we think we've lost are simply waiting for the right moment to reappear, not physically, but in thought, in memory, in meaning. Maybe they resurface when you need them most, when you're at a crossroads, when the world feels unfamiliar. They come back, not as they were, but as reminders of what you once survived, what you once loved, what you once hoped for. Time doesn't erase people because deep down, you never wanted it to. You wanted relief, not erasure. You wanted peace, not emptiness. So they stay, hidden beneath the rhythm of your days, in the laughter that sounds too familiar, in the dreams you can't quite explain, in the choices you make without realizing why. Time keeps them there, tucked away, safe but reachable, because maybe somewhere inside you, part of you is still searching too. And that's the trick time plays. It hides people long enough for you to think they're gone, then lets you find them again just to remind you how little control you ever really had. Obsession is a strange kind of fire. It doesn't burn bright all at once. It lingers, slow and quiet, like smoke that refuses to fade. Someone has been searching for you for 10 years, and with every year that passed, that fire didn't die. It grew colder, sharper, more dangerous. Because when you can't find what you're looking for, when every lead slips through your fingers, something inside you begins to change. You stop chasing a person. You start chasing the idea of them. That's when obsession stops being a choice. It becomes survival. It starts innocently enough. Hope, determination, a promise made in silence. They tell themselves it's about love or loyalty or unfinished business. But the truth? The truth is that obsession is a kind of madness dressed up as devotion. It feels righteous at first. It feels pure, but underneath it's hunger, a kind of ache that feeds on itself when it doesn't get what it wants. The longer it's starved, the stronger it becomes. Every day that passes without finding you adds another layer to that hunger. They wake up thinking about you, go to sleep thinking about you, eat, work, breathe with your absence sitting somewhere in the corner of their mind. It starts to warp their sense of time. 10 years begins to feel like one long, sleepless night. Every day is just another attempt to end it, to finally see your face, to confirm that the ghost they've been chasing is real. But the funny thing about ghosts, they only exist when you look for them. Obsession doesn't shout, it whispers. It makes itself sound reasonable. Asterisk. One more call. One more lead. One more city. Asterisk. It convinces you that this time you're close. This time you'll get it right. And then nothing. Just another dead end. Another name that didn't match. Another moment of silence where you realize you've built your world around a shadow. But by then, it's too late. You can't stop. You can't turn around. Because to stop searching means to admit it was all for nothing. And no one wants to face that. 10 years of looking for something or someone changes what you believe in. You stop believing in luck, in destiny, in help. You start believing in patterns, coincidences, signs that only make sense to you. The world becomes a puzzle, and every piece looks like it might fit, if only you twist it hard enough. You start to see connections that aren't there. You start to feel watched, even when no one's around. You lose sleep. You lose track of why you even started. But you keep going, because the thought of quitting feels worse than the pain of continuing. You start to forget their face. Isn't that the cruel part? You've been searching for someone so long that you can't even picture them clearly anymore. The details fade, and you fill in the blanks with imagination, memory, fragments. You build them again, piece by piece, until the version you're chasing isn't real at all. It's a creation, a reflection of what you needed them to be. And that's the trick. Obsession plays. It makes you fall in love with the image instead of the person. They say obsession blinds you, but it doesn't. It sharpens your vision. You start noticing everything, the smallest gestures, the tiniest signs, the things most people would ignore. You become aware of every possibility, every hidden path. But what you don't realize is that while you're watching the world so closely, the world stops watching you. You disappear. You fade into your own search until you become a ghost too, haunting the very thing you're trying to find. Obsession rewrites your priorities. You stop caring about comfort, about time, about reason. Friends drift away. Work slips through your fingers. Sleep becomes optional. Food becomes an afterthought. You convince yourself it's all temporary, that once you find them, once this ends, you'll go back to normal. But there is no normal waiting at the end, because the person you were when you started doesn't exist anymore. The hunt changes you, molds you, reshapes every part of who you thought you were. People will tell you to move on, to let go. They'll call it unhealthy, foolish, pathetic. But they don't understand the kind of emptiness that keeps a person searching that long. They don't understand what it means to wake up every day with a name that won't leave your head. It's not about logic. It's not even about the person anymore. It's about the time's need. Asterisk, the need to prove you weren't wrong. The need to make the pain mean something. Because if it doesn't, then what was the point of all those years? The longer the search continues, the more reality bends. You start to think maybe the world doesn't want you to find them. Maybe something bigger is at play, fate, punishment, karma. You start to see meaning in everything, from a random number on a wall to a dream that feels too real. You talk to yourself. You answer back. You tell yourself this is destiny. That's how obsession feeds. It gives you something to believe in when everything else stops making sense. 10 years is enough time to lose everything and still keep going. That's what obsession does. It steals your peace, your clarity, your time. But it gives you one thing in return: purpose. Twisted, fragile, obsessive purpose. You start to believe the search itself is what keeps you alive. Because if you stop, if you breathe, if you sit still too long, you'll have to face the truth that maybe they're gone. Maybe they never wanted to be found. Maybe you've been searching for something that only existed in your mind. And that truth is the one thing you can't survive. So you keep walking, keep following shadows. Keep convincing yourself that the next turn, the next street, the next clue will be the one. Because obsession doesn't end, it just changes shape. It starts as love, turns into pain, hardens into purpose. And by the time you realize what it's become, it's already too late. The fire isn't outside anymore, it's in you. And you can't tell whether it's keeping you alive or burning you from the inside out. You've changed, but the memory they're chasing hasn't. That's the problem with people who live in the past. They freeze you in time. They hold on to a version of you that no longer exists, and they build their whole reality around it. Someone out there has been searching for you for 10 years, but the you they're searching for is gone. They're chasing a photograph that's faded, a voice that doesn't sound the same anymore, a heartbeat that learned a different rhythm. They don't see the scars you've collected, the storms you've survived, the fire you've walked through to become who you are now. They're looking for the ghost of a person who died the day you decided to change. People love to remember you as they want to, not as you are. It's easier that way. The old version of you can't argue. It can't disappoint them. It can't outgrow their expectations. It just stays there, trapped in their mind, frozen, obedient, perfect. They can keep you there, untouched by time, while the real you keeps moving, breaking rules, rewriting your story. And that's what scares them, because when they finally find you, they'll realize they've been searching for a stranger. 10 years of searching builds an illusion. They think they know you better than anyone else. They think the connection never changed. But what they don't understand is that time doesn't stop for anyone. Life doesn't wait while someone is stuck remembering. Every second you've lived since they last saw you has rewritten the pages of your story. You've become sharper, colder, wiser, maybe even a little dangerous. You've learned to live without them, learned to walk through nights that would have broken the old you. But they can't see that. They're still looking for the version of you that needed them. The world has a cruel way of reshaping people. It takes everything soft and turns it hard. It takes the ones who trusted too easily and teaches them to question everything. Maybe that's what happened to you. Maybe the person they're searching for was naive, hopeful, full of light. And maybe the one standing here now learned that light attracts shadows. The searcher doesn't know that version of you anymore. They don't know what you had to lose to survive. They don't know what it cost you to become this quiet, this aware, this untouchable. When people hold on to the past too tightly, they forget that memories lie. They remember the warmth, but not the reason you left. They remember the laughter, but not the pain that came after. They edit the story until it fits their comfort. They turn you into a character that suits their guilt, their nostalgia, their fantasy. And then they spend years chasing that version, convinced it's still out there, waiting to be found. They don't realize they're chasing smoke, because the person they think you are doesn't exist anymore. The person they lost isn't lost at all, they evolved. You've seen things in these 10 years that they wouldn't believe. You've walked through silence that would have driven them mad. You've rebuilt yourself piece by piece, sometimes with shaking hands, sometimes with no plan at all. You've had to unlearn the softness they loved, because the world doesn't reward softness, it consumes it. You've had to build walls where there used to be open doors. And behind those walls you became someone new. Not better, not worse, just real. Someone who doesn't need to be found to feel whole. But for them, the past is still alive. In their mind, you're still the same. Still waiting, still untouched, still the unfinished story they can fix. They think finding you will be like turning a page and continuing where they left off. But when they finally do, they'll realize the book has changed languages. The story's been rewritten, and the character they loved doesn't speak the same anymore. And maybe that's what terrifies them, the idea that you moved on while they were still standing still. There's something unsettling about being remembered incorrectly. It's like someone holding a portrait of you that no longer looks right. The smile's wrong, the eyes are dull, the color's faded, but they still call it you. They still believe it's who you are. You want to tell them that picture belongs to another lifetime, but they wouldn't listen. They're too attached to the idea. People always fall in love with the version they create in their heads. They never know what to do when the real thing changes. And you have changed. Change doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in the small, quiet moments. The nights you stayed up questioning everything. The mornings you forced yourself to keep going when nothing made sense. The hours spent staring at walls, trying to make peace with the silence. Those moments reshape you. They strip away the layers that no longer fit and replace them with something rawer, something truer. And now, when they finally find you, they won't know what to do with that truth. Because the truth is, they're not ready for who you are now. They're ready for who you were. They want the voice that comforted them, the heart that forgave too easily, the eyes that saw them as more than they deserved. They're not ready for the version of you that learned boundaries, that learned silence, that learned to say no. They're not ready for the version that doesn't need saving, that doesn't believe in old promises, that doesn't chase ghosts anymore. You can almost feel it, can't you? The tension between who you were and who you've become. The distance between their memory and your reality. They've spent years chasing something that time already buried, and when they finally catch up, they'll realize what time always does. It doesn't erase people. It evolves them. You've outgrown the cage they built for you. You've learned how to live without needing to be found. And while they're still lost in the echo of your name, you're standing in a place they never knew existed, a place only change could take you. The past has this strange habit of sneaking up when you least expect it. You think it's buried, forgotten, sealed tight somewhere behind everything new you've built, but no, it waits, quietly, patiently. The past always finds a way to resurface, crawling through cracks you didn't even know were there. It doesn't care how much you've changed, how far you've run, or how strong you've become. It just waits for the right silence, the right song, the right moment, and then it breathes again. You can change your name, your city, your voice, even your reflection, but the past doesn't need directions to find you. It knows every corner of your mind, every scar under your skin. It remembers you better than you remember yourself. It's like a scent you can't wash off, faint, but unmistakable. You can pretend it's gone, pretend it doesn't matter. But all it takes is one memory, one voice, one face that looks too familiar, and suddenly it's all back again, sharper than ever. People think they escape their past by building new lives, new identities, new dreams. But what they don't understand is that the past doesn't chase, it follows. Slowly, quietly, step by step. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't demand your attention, it slips into it. You'll be laughing, living, thinking you've finally moved on, and then something as small as a shadow or a phrase brings it crashing down like it never left. The past doesn't age. It just waits for you to notice it again. Sometimes, it's not even about guilt or pain. Sometimes, it's about unfinished stories, the kind that never got their ending. The ones you walked away from before the last word was written. The past hates loose ends. It will twist, pull, and claw its way back, just to remind you that not everything was settled. That something or someone still lingers in the background, waiting for you to face it. You can ignore it for years, but it's there, breathing under every decision, shaping every choice, without you even realizing it. And when it finally surfaces, it doesn't knock politely. It breaks the door open. You feel it in your chest, first the weight, the familiarity, the chill of recognition. You tell yourself it's nothing, just a coincidence, but deep down, you know it's not. The past doesn't do coincidences. It's deliberate, surgical. It comes back exactly when it needs to. Not to destroy you, no, to remind you, to test if you've really changed or if you've just been pretending. The strangest part is how easily it blends into the present. You can't always tell where memory ends and reality begins. You start questioning yourself. Did that conversation really happen? Did they really say that? Was it ever resolved? You replay it over and over in your head, but the answers blur. The past doesn't come back to give you clarity, it comes back to confuse you. To see if you'll fall into the same pattern again, say the same words, make the same mistakes. And most people do. Because the past knows your weaknesses better than you do. It remembers exactly what breaks you, what tempts you, what makes you hesitate. It's patient like that. It waits for the moment you drop your guard, and then it slips in wearing a familiar face. That's the trick. It never looks like a threat. It looks like comfort. It looks like nostalgia. It looks like something you've missed, and before you realize it, you're not just remembering, you're reliving. You try to fight it, but fighting something that's already inside you is impossible. You can't outrun your own history. You can only learn to look it in the eye. But most people don't. Most people pretend. They build walls, smile for the world, pretend the ghosts don't whisper at night. They keep moving forward, but the weight stays. The same patterns repeat, different faces, same choices. That's the past's quiet victory. It doesn't need to drag you backward. It just needs you to stay stuck in the same loop, disguised as progress. Sometimes, the past doesn't even come back as a person or a memory. Sometimes it's just a feeling, something you can't name, can't place. A heaviness that sits in your chest for no reason. You wake up with it, you walk with it, you pretend you're fine, but you feel that shadow following you everywhere. That's the echo. That's the reminder that something unresolved still lingers somewhere deep, waiting for you to finally face it. You can't kill the past. You can't bury it deep enough to stop it from moving. It's not a body, it's a heartbeat. It keeps going, whether you want it to or not. It hides in your words, in the way you look at people, in the way you react when certain names are mentioned. You think you're free, but you're not. The past is stitched into you. It's not behind you, it's beneath you, under your skin, shaping how you walk, how you think, how you breathe. But here's the part most people never admit. The past doesn't always come back to hurt you. Sometimes it comes back to see if you've grown, to see if you're ready to handle what broke you before. It tests you quietly, like an old teacher showing up after years just to see if you remember the lesson. Most people fail. They crumble, repeat, fall right back into the same rhythm. But just a few stand still, face it, and don't flinch. Because they understand that the past isn't an enemy. It's a mirror. And if you can look into it without fear, without denial, it loses its power. But that's the game, isn't it? The past doesn't come back to destroy you, it comes back to expose you, to show you whether all those years of pretending to move on actually meant something. Whether the scars healed or just hardened, whether you've changed or whether you're still the same person, standing in the same place, pretending you're free when you're still chained to something that refuses to let go.